All right, welcome back to the show. It's still morning spring, but now it's time for spring trends. Let's tell you what is happening, who is trending, what is trending, why they're trending, and what people are saying about the who, the what, and the why. Now, supporters of Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, popularly known as Obedient, took to social media to drag the living daylight out of Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka. And the reason for that is because he granted an interview where he spoke about Obidati's issue and said that some of the statements made by the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party amounts to, trying to stoke tensions and take Nigeria to fascist government style. But let's look at that interview, a portion of the interview, and then see how Obedient reacted to Professor Soyinka.
The interviewer asked him several times, he said, what will you do if the Supreme Court judgment is against you? If the interpretation which you are offering about the constitutional aspect of this election, if it is against that of the Supreme Court and they find against you. And he kept saying, no, it's not even open to analysis because the word says and it's very clear. And the Supreme Court, in its wisdom, had better give this, in other words, his interpretation. I mean, this is trying to dictate to the supreme arbiter of the nation. Whatever you think of the Supreme Court, it is an institution we all revert to sooner or later. If not today, then tomorrow. If not about this election, maybe about the next election. But Dati kept saying, no, the Supreme Court has got, in its wisdom, to agree with me. That is what is known as fascistic language. It is not acceptable. And for me, it alienates people. It alienates even supporters. I know this for a fact. People come to, you know how I relate to young people. I relate to those who have found certain problems.
That was what Wole Soyinka said, though. That's all he said. And the Obedient were not having it at all. They were not comfortable that he was likening their vice presidential candidate to a fascist, the likes of Hitler, Mussolini, and the rest. So let's see how they came up with their defenses for Obi and Dati Ahmed. Thomas Not Sankara starts the conversation. Says Wole Soyinka, an elder statesman, is more angry about Dati's response to the fraudulent elections than the fraudulent elections itself. Some elders are overrated. Kweku the Hustler says there's a reason they chose Wole Soyinka, his international reputation. Then imagine an internationally acclaimed literary legend branding a movement as fascist on international TV, and someone wants to tell me he or the people who sent him didn't know what they were doing. And Tony Dibia says this was Professor Wole Soyinka before the 2015 election, leading protest so that Buhari could replace Goodluck Jonathan. Won't say more than this. Adetutu Balogun MBA says Wole Soyinka is using grey hair to chop agbado. He was very quiet during the Rògbòdìyàn election violence. Our Professor Nobel Prize winner is Sonu. Omotayo Williams says Ogun State has been taking care of Wole Soyinka with taxpayers for years. Although I expected better, I am not surprised. There is nothing stomach infrastructure cannot cause. Miss Pels comes next, says, for a man who hijacked a radio station in the 60s, for a man who advocated guerrilla warfare in the late 90s, calling Dati a fascist is bit rich and hypocritical, I must say. Wole Soyinka should go and rest before he thoroughly tarnishes what is left of his reputation. And Ikenna Ronald Nzimora comes next with this comment. It says, I remember when that young guy refused for Wole Soyinka to be on his seat in the aircraft, and many of you were doing nonsense ad hominem on the old man's behalf. Now you see the young dude was right. Elder will not respect himself. Go chop insult. Bat Exterminator says, no one is above criticism, especially not a Wole Soyinka. Soyinka, a supposed activist who in his early days was vociferous against oppression. Now in his old age, it appears he cannot discern the same passion in today's youth fighting for their future. Dr. Joe Abba is one of those who came out to defend Wole Soyinka. He says the uncouth insults being directed by some against Professor Wole Soyinka are saddening. He is not a politician for whom some can say all is fair in love and war. He is undeniably a patriot. We should learn to disagree without being disagreeable. Deepo said, someone said Wole Soyinka needs to take English lessons. Or look up what the word fascism is before speaking of Dati's criticism. I had to read the tweet like 10 times to be sure he was referring to Wole Soyinka. Twitter is truly a leveler. But that's that on that show, on that story. That's the comment. Those are the comments we have for you there on that story. Some persons defending, Wole Soyinka. Others really coming for him. From Wole, we'll move over to former president of the country, Olusegun Obasanjo, who is also in the news. His letter to the United Kingdom on behalf of Senator Ike Ekweremadu. Let's look at those letters now. The letter rather now. He's spoken about what the UK government should do. But what struck me was the introduction in OBJ's letter. I love the second paragraph, the second sentence there. It says, I am Olusegun Obasanjo, a soldier commissioned into the British Army of the West African Frontier Force in 1958 and rose to the rank of a full general in the Nigerian Army. I received the surrender of the Biafran Army at the end of the Nigeria Civil War. I was military head of state from 1976 to 1979 and elected president from 1999 to 2007. Talk about one of the sweetest self-introductions ever. It smirks of confidence and all of that. But the content of the letter was to appeal for leniency on the second page of the letter now, to appeal for leniency for Ike Ekweremadu and for the UK court to temper justice with mercy, or to temper mercy with justice or justice with mercy. There's something has to be tempered with the other. So let's look at how Nigerians reacted. Some persons were not having it. It was a sort of a mixed reaction to what OBJ did there. Let's look at Olauda Equiano, who's the first person there. Says President Obasanjo's appeal for leniency on behalf of Senator and Mrs. Ike Ekweremadu. When they talk about father of the nation, OBJ is the only one I know. How pleasant, kind, and touching. Ose Anini says, the thing with Obasanjo is that sometimes he hits, sometimes it misses, but he will always fire. I agree with this message. He acknowledges their guilt and seriousness of the offense, but pleads for leniency because of the status of Ekweremadu as a Nigerian leader, but more importantly, as a father desperate to save his child. What do you think? Yeah, really, what do you think? Tell us on all our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just tag us and give us your comment. What do you think about OBJ's letter to the United Kingdom? Daddy Odan says, ordinary American citizens get into legal trouble in foreign countries, and the U.S. government will go to the end of the world to intervene. A former Deputy Senate President, fourth most powerful, and current Nigerian senator is in a UK jail, and Buhari's government acts like it's nothing. Vespa Martini says, Obasanjo has been writing many unnecessary letters, but the most useless and shameful of them all is that about pleading on Ekweremadu's case, if truly that letter emanated from his office. Daddy Rex says, Obasanjo's letter to the UK now about Ekweremadu shows how elders in our land would do anything to favor their camp. Baba doesn't even care about the poor boy. All he was just saying was about his relationship with this man. Never care about the poor boy at all. AY Dot says, Nigeria has a government, but Obasanjo, a former president, is the one overreaching himself by writing a letter to plead for clemency on behalf of Senator Ekweremadu, who has been convicted of organ trafficking and about to be sentenced in the UK. Polonium says, Dear President Obasanjo, our respected elder statesman, thank you for always lending your voice for truth, peace, and progress across the globe. Sir, sadly, regarding Ekweremadu, I will be surprised to see any impact of this letter. The legal system here is independent of politicians and civil servants. The last thing your friend would do is get involved in this case for the sake of his own reputation and fear of the British public. This was a waste of your valuable time, sir. God bless you, sir. Nigerians with some sort of respect, respectfully disrespecting others. Adino, he says, Chief Obasanjo's letter in respect to DSP Ekweremadu's ordeal is a good one to me. Whatever the circumstances, it is fair we have someone at OBJ's status interceding. I pray for him and his family. Olorogun says, all I could see from Obasanjo's letter on Ekweremadu is someone who wants to pervert justice, nothing else. Ekweremadu would have been walking free and maybe re-elected into the National Assembly. Good riddance. Martins Oga says, on this matter, OBJ should hide his face in shame. Ekweremadu should be locked in solitary confinement and the keys thrown away. That's that person's comment. That's what Martins Oga said about that letter written by Obasanjo to the United Kingdom. Now let's go to what happened yesterday and something we've talked about on the interview segment of the show. Seems that there will be no more japa for Nigerian doctors because the House of Representatives is taking a different stand. So let's look at what's happening. Yesterday, the House of Representatives put out a tweet and said that a bill to prevent Nigerian trained medical and or dental practitioners from being granted full licenses until they have worked for a minimum of 5 years in the country has passed second reading at the House NGR. Now let's look at the letter, the bill itself. The bill is part of measures to halt the increasing number of medical doctors leaving Nigeria for other countries in search of greener pastures. The bill is sponsored by Rep. Ganiu Abiodun, and he said that it was only fair for medical practitioners who enjoyed taxpayer subsidies on their training to give back to the society by working for a minimum number of years in Nigeria before exporting their skills abroad. The majority of lawmakers supported the bill, though a number of them called for flexibility and options in the envisaged law. One member, Rep. Uzoma Nkem Abunta, opposed the bill on the grounds that it was more like enslavement to tie a doctor down for 5 years in Nigeria post-graduation before seeking employment in a foreign country. However, the majority voice votes passed the bill for second reading. The plenary of the House was presided over by the Speaker, Representative Femi Gbajabiamila. So let's see what Nigerians have had to say about that particular incident. We begin with Adetutu Balogun, MBA. Adetutu Balogun is the first commentator. She says, when are you going to pass a bill that will prevent elected government officials from going abroad for medical tourism? One went for 105 days at taxpayers' expense. Aaron Chukwemeka says, Nigeria is not a real place. We've got other pressing issues facing us as a country, but the government decided to gang up against those who seek for a better life outside Nigeria, a hell they created for the common man. Some of our lawmakers are worse than the devil. Wow, worse than the devil? I don't know. Yo, Shobu Baba Asheyi Victor says, nah. Here's the reason why we should focus more on the representatives we elect. The attention we give to presidential and gubernatorial elections should be given to NAS too. They are the closest to us. I totally agree with Shay there. Chidi Okereke says, they came for shite, you said it was not your business. They came for protesters, you said you're at home. They came for Twitter, you said you use Instagram. They have come for doctors, and you're saying you're not one. They are coming for you soon. That sounds like the opening to a horror movie. You know, they are coming for you soon. Paul Sherry Esquire says, since we now know their importance and want to tie them down, then the bill must also provide a sumptuous welfare package for them, make it less tempting for them to leave the country. What on earth can make it less tempting for you to leave Nigeria? I mean, the temptation is a subsisting one, is in existence. It cannot go. Teslim Vector the Viper says, it would be nice to pass a bill that compels everyone working and benefiting from the Nigerian government and their families to use Nigerian medical academic institutions, other institutions to be considered as we progress. Thank you. I agree. I totally agree with Vector. Every Nigerian government official should be compelled to use the primary health care center in their villages, to use the teaching hospitals, to use the general hospitals. Let's see if they will not be forced to repair those places. Maurice Monnier Momo says, I like how these politicians are doing nationwide shege. If you voted APC or voted in a tribalistic manner or not, you will still collect small dose of shege. Of course, these politicians are quite generous in showing shege to the masses. Marvin, the paranoid android, says, won't stop the brain drain. Once they finish their 5 years of slavery, they'll run. More time to save up, Seth. You see, Nigerians are already trying to beat the process. This person says it's more time for them to save up and to jackpot in the process. Nessis Yele says, this is pure wickedness. They should rather look for solutions to the brain drain and not denying them access to travel abroad. Make una pass bill that all government officials shouldn't seek healthcare abroad too. Yes, that bill should be passed, but of course, you know, you and I know that it will never be passed in this country. Babatunde Gbadamosi says, slavery, a bill for an act to legitimize slavery. Nigeria will soon become a territory without any qualified medical personnel, since most who wish to study medicine will leave the country. Why are these people so bereft of sense? If you ask me. Blessed Yachinedu said, take a look at the kind of laws they deliberate on. Not how to pay doctors better, not how to improve their welfare, or how to get hospitals equipped so doctors will be encouraged to stay. The plan is to suffocate doctors. All they do is kill. They can't nurture or grow anything. Lotta Chiku Elixir says, how about a bill to improve the health sector and raise the wages of health workers? A bill to reduce the cost of governance, a limit on government spending without accountability, a bill banning government officials from going abroad to receive health care. How about that? No answer. Dr. Babatunde says, I doubt the National Assembly actually knows why doctors are leaving Nigeria, because when I was in medical school, our dream was residency and not traveling abroad. But the harsh economic realities and unfavorable work conditions came, and it's getting worse. Kayode Oshinobi says, why not pass a bill to enhance their welfare and wages and also overhaul our healthcare system? Seems you guys are not also aware that a lot of professors are leaving too. Will you pass same bill for lecturers? How do you people think? I hope the next president won't sign it. JG Omojua is our last commentator. Says, this reflects the death of creative thinking at this level. You should be exploring Barca's agreement with countries like Canada, US, UK, Saudi Arabia that allows for a win-win. Instead, it is this anti-human rights idea. We need better thinkers at this level. And that's why we must also, like Sheyi said, pay attention to the people we send to our states, houses of assembly, and to the National Assembly to represent us, to make laws on our behalf. Well, that's where we end the show this morning. Thank God it's Friday. Go ahead and enjoy yourself. Have for yourself a wonderful weekend. My name is Emmanuel Ojadegele. I'm Ojadegele on Twitter, but do well to stay on the safe side of the law and enjoy yourself responsibly. I'll see you on Monday. Bye-bye.